Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are wandering through a time so distant, so alien, that even the air tastes different, thicker, wetter, charged with the tang of sulfur and ash. You're standing, or maybe tiptoeing given the circumstances, at the edge of a valley that seems to pulse with heat, the ground beneath your feet, soft and treacherous like some angry deity's simmering cauldron. Steam hisses from cracks in the earth and pools of mud, the color of spoiled milk bubble ominously. You probably won't survive more than 5 minutes here, let's be honest. But hey, that's the fun of it, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from tonight and what time is it where you are? Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along a ridge overlooking this ancient volcanic valley. The earth here isn't just a stage for life, it's a player hissing and spitting, reshaping itself with every heartbeat of the deep. Below you, geysers belch boiling water into the sky, their plumes catching the last reddish light of a setting sun that feels far too large and close. You try not to breathe too deeply because the air is laced with gases that your modern lungs aren't exactly equipped to handle. Still, you push forward, drawn by the strange sight that first caught your eye: tracks. Dinosaur tracks. Not just any tracks either. These prints are huge, each one broader than a dinner table and spaced wide apart as if their maker was in no rush, its massive limbs striding confidently across the treacherous ground. What's odd, though, is that the prints aren't lasting. You watch as one fills with scalding water, sending up a ghostly wisp of steam, and then melts back into the bubbling mud like it was never there at all. It's a footprint that erases itself. You smile, because if you were a predator tracking this creature, good luck. Historians still debate whether these self-erasing tracks served as an evolutionary advantage or were just an unlucky side effect of living in a death trap of a habitat. Now I know what you're thinking. Boiling mud. Dinosaurs. Sounds like someone's had one too many cups of prehistoric coffee. But this isn't science fiction. Paleontologists have found fossilized nests near ancient geothermal features areas where heat from beneath the Earth's crust could have incubated eggs, no parental sitting required. It's like nature's slow cooker. Imagine laying your eggs and letting the planet do the babysitting. No diaper changes needed either. As you creep closer to the valley floor, you catch sight of the dinosaur itself, a hulking beast. Its hide, a patchwork of scaly armor and feathery tufts. This wasn't the sleek velociraptor of the movies or the lumbering brontosaurus of children's books. No, this creature is something else entirely. Its head is narrow with jaws lined in sharp teeth, but it moves with a slow, almost reverent care, as if aware that one wrong step could send it plunging into a scalding pool. You whisper to yourself, "Careful, buddy," as if your voice could cross millions of years and offer advice. You pause to take in the sounds. The low rumble of the earth beneath you, the hiss of steam, the occasional pop as a gas bubble bursts in the mud. And oddly, the faint musical chirp of insects that somehow thrive in this infernal place. Fun fact, some modern species of insect still lay their eggs near geothermal vents, using the heat to speed up hatching. Nature's always had its hacks. You edge down a slope of black sand and cinders, shoes crunching softly, and feel the sudden wash of heat that rises from a nearby fissure. Your skin prickles, your breath catches. This place isn't just hot, it's alive, like the planet's heart is beating right beneath your feet. You swear you can hear it, a slow, deep thrum, like a drum heard through a wall. Remember when humans evolved? Yeah, they weren't anywhere near this place. Even our primate ancestors would have noped right out. You glance back at the trail behind you, what little of it remains, and realize how easily you could get lost here. Everything looks the same steam mudstone and that ever-present ghostly glow as the sun finally slips below the horizon. You joke to yourself, should have brought marshmallows, but the truth is you're too awed to feel afraid. Well, mostly. There's a low splash somewhere to your right and you freeze heart-pounding. But it's just a chunk of crust falling into a pool sending ripples across the surface. Harmless, probably. The dinosaur. Your dinosaur stops near a larger mud pool. It lowers its massive body slowly carefully, as if testing the ground's stability. And then with surprising gentleness it begins to dig. Its powerful claws scoop aside soft earth and loose rock, creating a shallow depression near the edge of the pool. You hold your breath as it reaches down, depositing what looks like an enormous leathery egg into the steaming mud. One, then another, then a third. Each egg vanishes almost immediately beneath the surface, hidden from sight and from hungry eyes. It steps back, nostrils flaring as if tasting the air. Satisfied, it turns and lumbers away, leaving the earth to do its work. You wonder how it knows the perfect spot, the exact temperature. Some researchers suggest these creatures could detect heat gradients with nerves in their snouts or feet, like prehistoric thermal cameras. Others think it was trial and error honed over generations. Historians still debate whether this behavior was instinctual genius or just luck. You take one last look at the steaming nursery before you, your skin flushed with the valley's breath, and marvel at the audacity of life of laying your future in boiling mud and trusting the world not to swallow it whole. The valley of smoke and sulfur closes around you, as you edge farther in the shadows deepening, now that the sun has fully surrendered to night. The air is thick not just with heat but with a sour stench that hits the back of your throat and makes your eyes water. You gag quietly, wiping your sleeve across your face, but it doesn't help. The smell of sulfur is everywhere, clinging to the wet ferns, the scorched trunks of ancient trees, even the slick stones under your boots. Every breath feels like you're sipping from a cracked egg that's been left out too long. You mutter, "Five-star resort, this is not." Steam rises in lazy, ghostly columns from cracks and vents scattered across the valley floor. The earth hisses and pops beneath your feet, alive with hidden energy. Pools of mud gurgle and belch, sending up foul-smelling bubbles that burst with soft plops. A breeze stirs the mist, and for a heartbeat you catch a clear view of the terrain. Jagged rocks jut from the ground like broken teeth. Groves of tree ferns and cycads struggle to survive on the valley's fringes, their fronds browned at the tips by the constant heat. And everywhere, pools, some wide and shallow, others narrow and deep, boil and churn, fed by unseen veins of molten rock below. You think about your last spa day and decide this is the evil twin version. Historians still debate whether these geothermal valleys were rare pockets of heat or part of vast networks stretching across continents. What's certain is that life here evolved to dance with fire. You shuffle on, careful where you place your feet. The crust of earth is thin in places, and you've already watched one boulder-sized rock vanish with a hiss into a pool that didn't look deep at all. You half expect to see the rock pop up again like a cork, but the mud only closes over it and resumes its slow, sullen bubbling. In the distance, a geyser erupts with a hollow roar, spraying scalding water into the night sky. The plume glows faintly in the moonlight, a silver ghost rising from the earth's wound. You flinch as droplets rain down, but you're far enough away to be safe. Mostly. The ground trembles beneath your boots, a reminder that the forces shaping this valley aren't finished yet. You whisper half to yourself, "Steady, girl," like you're talking to a skittish horse, and take another cautious step forward. Off to your left, a deep pool bubbles more violently than the others. The mud is darker here, streaked with oily rainbows that shimmer in the dim light. And there, what's that? You squint, leaning in, and spot a glistening film stretched across the pool's surface. It bursts suddenly with a sound like a sigh, releasing a puff of gas that makes your eyes sting. Odd fact of the night that gas likely contains traces of ancient methane trapped deep in the earth for millions of years, now finding its way back into the world. The hiss and splatter of the valley becomes a strange symphony, and you start to hear patterns in it. The soft gurgle of a mud pot, the sharp crack of cooling rock, the steady drip of condensed steam from an overhanging ledge. It's a music that no human ear was ever meant to hear, but here you are, front row seat. You smile wryly, thinking, too bad I didn't bring popcorn. You pause to catch your breath, wiping sweat from your brow. The heat radiating off the ground is relentless, like standing too close to a bonfire that never goes out. And yet in this dangerous place, life persists. You spot strange plants clinging to the rocks, their roots sunk deep into cracks where cooler water trickles down. Small, quick shapes flit among the ferns, lizards perhaps, or some early mammal cousin risking the open to snatch an insect or two. Remember when humans evolved? Yeah, your ancestors' wouldn't dare set foot here. They had better sense. A low rumble rolls through the valley and the ground shifts subtly beneath you. Not a quake, not yet, but a warning. The Earth's deep heartbeat, steady but never entirely safe. You glance around, heart thudding, but the landscape hasn't changed. Still, you feel smaller now, humbled by the raw, unpredictable power beneath your feet. You tell yourself to move to find a safer spot, but your curiosity keeps you rooted, drawn by the strange beauty of this hostile world. Your eyes catch movement again this time, not a trick of the mist. A large shadow glides across a rise ahead of you, silhouetted against the glowing steam. The dinosaur. It moves with slow, deliberate grace, each step tested before it commits its weight. Its massive head turns, scanning the ground as if it too listens for the Earth's warnings. The creature pauses at the edge of a wide, shallow pool where the mud bubbles more gently and lowers its snout to sniff the steam. It's searching for the perfect spot, a place where the heat is just right, not too hot to cook its eggs, not too cool to leave them vulnerable. You wonder how many generations it took to learn this dance with fire. Historians still debate whether this skill was passed down through teaching or simply burned into instinct over time. You stay as still as you can, heart racing, watching as the dinosaur begins to dig again, scraping at the edge of the pool with its powerful claws. Each scoop of mud sizzles as it lands, the moisture flashing to steam. The valley watches with you silent, except for the endless hiss of steam and mud. And somewhere beneath it all, the mountain's slow breath rises and falls, patient and implacable. You shuffle closer, keeping to the high ground where the earth feels a little more solid beneath your feet, if solid can even apply in a place where the ground seems to breathe and simmer. The dinosaur's trail is clearer here, where the crust hasn't yet melted back into mud. Each footprint is an impression of weight and purpose pressed deep into the soft earth before the heat erases it. You pause, watching as the nearest track steams quietly, filling with water that hisses and spatters as it sinks into the ground. And then just like that, the footprint vanishes, the mud smoothing itself over as if no creature had ever passed this way. It's unnerving, isn't it? To think of such a massive animal leaving no lasting mark. Historians still debate whether these self-erasing tracks were a deliberate survival advantage, nature's own disappearing act, or simply a byproduct of living in a place where the earth was always in motion, always hungry to reclaim what touched it. Either way, you realize you could follow this dinosaur all day and end up right where you started, none the wiser. You crouch beside one of the fresher prints, feeling the heat radiate up from it. The air shimmers above the ground, distorting the shapes of nearby ferns and stones. You resist the childish urge to press your hand into the track to see if your own print would vanish just as quickly. Spoiler alert, it would, and you'd probably get a nasty burn for your trouble. Best to keep your fingers to yourself tonight. The ground beneath the footprint is soft, almost spongy, and you can hear the faint gurgle of water moving beneath the crust. Somewhere deeper, magma, creeps along unseen channels feeding the valley's pools and vents. You imagine the dinosaur navigating this landscape, massive, powerful, and yet so precise each step tested before it lands. There's a strange elegance in that. A creature that could crush you flat with one misplaced foot, and yet it moves like a tightrope walker over this boiling earth. A breeze stirs the steam, clearing your view for a moment, and you spot more tracks leading away from the pool where the dinosaur last laid its eggs. The prints zigzag slightly, as if the creature had paused, reconsidered, then changed course. You wonder if it felt the ground shift or smelled a change in the steam. Fun fact, modern elephants are known to detect distant thunderstorms through vibrations in the ground. Maybe this ancient giant had similar sensitivities tuned to the murmurs of a restless world. You rise and follow the fading trail, stepping carefully over thin crusts that crackle ominously beneath your boots. The valley seems quieter now, though the ever-present hiss and bubble of mud and steam never truly stops. The dinosaur's path leads you toward a cluster of stunted trees, their trunks blackened by past eruptions, their roots clutching at the earth like desperate fingers. Here the prints are shallower, the ground cooler. You exhale, realizing you'd been holding your breath without knowing it. But even here the prints don't last. The damp earth absorbs them, the crust reshaping itself with every passing hour. It strikes you standing there in the moonlit steam how fleeting even the mightiest creature's mark can be. Remember when humans evolved? We like to think we're masters of the world, but the earth has ways of wiping clean the chalkboards of history. No fossils, no bones, no tracks, just silence as if nothing had ever been. You stop beside a pool smaller than the others, its surface mirror smooth except for the occasional lazy bubble that breaks and vanishes. The steam here smells sweeter somehow, tinged with minerals rather than the sharp bite of sulfur. You lean over and catch sight of your own reflection, ghostly distorted eyes, wide in wonder or maybe fear. You chuckle softly. Bet I look like I'm starring in a low-budget horror flick, you mutter. And honestly, you wouldn't be wrong. A splash draws your attention, a clump of mud slipping from the edge of a footprint into a pool, sending ripples across its surface. The valley seems to sigh, settling back into its endless rhythm. You glance back along the path you've taken, but the steam has already swallowed your trail. No footprints, no sign you were ever here. Just like the dinosaur, you're a ghost passing through, leaving nothing behind. Historians still debate whether this valley was a cradle or a grave for the creatures that called it home. A place where life could thrive in the warmth of the earth, or a trap that devoured all who dared enter. Tonight it feels like both. You take a step forward, then another, following the invisible trail into the deeper shadows of the valley, where the steam thickens and the earth's heartbeat grows louder beneath your feet. And somewhere ahead, the dinosaur moves on its path as fleeting as the footprints it leaves behind. You press on, drawn by the soft splash and hiss of the valley's hidden waters. And soon the ground levels out into a wide-open flat where the steam rises in thicker columns. The air is heavier here, each breath loaded with moisture and that ever-present tang of sulfur. Your clothes cling to your skin, damp with sweat and mist, and you can feel the heat of the earth even through your boots. It's like walking across the top of a gigantic simmering stew, except you're part of the recipe if you slip. 5 stars on prehistoric Yelp. You mutter under your breath, the sound swallowed by the valley's quiet roar. Ahead, the dinosaur stands still at the edge of a broad, shallow mud pool. The steam parts for a moment, giving you a clear look at her massive form. She's impressive, heavier than a bus, with powerful legs that end in claws caked with mud and ash. Her skin is a mosaic of dark scales, streaked here and there with patches of feather-like filaments that flutter in the rising heat. The great head lowers, and she sniffs at the steaming mud nostrils flaring as she tests the temperature with the precision of a practiced chef checking a pot. Historians still debate whether these dinosaurs had specialized temperature-sensitive nerve endings to help them choose the perfect spot, or if they simply learned by tragic trial and error. Either way, she knows what she's doing. Slowly, with surprising gentleness, she steps closer to the pool. Each footfall is deliberate, the ground hissing beneath her weight as steam escapes from hidden vents. She pauses at the edge, claws curling into the soft mud, and begins to dig. The mud parts under her strength, revealing the darker, wetter earth beneath. The heat rising from the pool makes the air ripple, and you find yourself blinking against the steam as if trying to see through a fogged window. One by one, she lays her eggs into the shallow depression she's made. Each egg is huge, easily the size of a beach ball, with a leathery off-white shell that glistens in the moonlight. The first sinks halfway into the mud and she nudges it gently with her snout until it's almost entirely submerged. The second and third follow, disappearing beneath the bubbling surface, as if the earth itself is swallowing them. You watch hard in your throat as she covers them lightly with more mud, sealing them in their strange, boiling cradle. No nest of sticks or leaves for these young, just the planet's own heat, steady and relentless. The valley around you seems to hold its breath. The mud pool bubbles more softly now, as if accepting its role as guardian of the future. You marvel at the audacity of it, a mother trusting this dangerous land to nurture her young. In a world of tooth and claw, of constant hunger and threat, she has chosen this place where even the air can kill. And somehow, it works. Fossils have been found of entire clutches hatched and grown in similar settings, proof that this gamble paid off time and again. Odd fact for you, some modern birds like the megapode of Australia still use geothermal heat to incubate their eggs, burying them in volcanic soils or warm sands. Talk about ancient wisdom sticking around. The dinosaur steps back from her buried treasure, nostrils flaring again, as if committing the sight to memory. Or maybe she's just savoring a moment of quiet triumph before the valley's dangers return. You wonder what predators might lurk beyond the steam, those bold or desperate enough to risk the heat for a taste of easy prey. Remember when humans evolved? We weren't the first creatures to dream up clever ways to protect our young. Nature's been at that game for millions of years before we even showed up. A breeze stirs the steam, and for a heartbeat, you see the valley as she must see it. Pools shimmering like silver mirrors, steam rising in twisting ribbons, shadows of trees and rocks blending into the night. It's both beautiful and terrifying. A place where life clings to the edge of disaster and somehow thrives. You almost laugh at the absurdity of it all, at how fragile it seems, and yet how enduring. You whisper, "Good luck, little ones," even though you know they won't hear you. She lingers a moment longer, then turns, massive tail sweeping a clean arc through the mud. The ground shudders slightly beneath her weight, and the crust crackles as she moves away, heading for higher, safer ground. You follow at a distance, careful where you step. The pool where she laid her eggs looks no different now than any of the others, a patch of mud bubbling and steaming in the moonlight. No markers, no signs, just trust in the earth and its ancient deadly rhythms. And somewhere beneath that steaming surface, life begins. The heat that could kill also nurtures, cradling the eggs in its fierce embrace, daring any predator or even the land itself to try and take them. You move on the steam, closing behind you, erasing your tracks as surely as it did hers. The steam thickens as you follow the dinosaur's fading silhouette, its massive form vanishing and reappearing in the swirling mist like some ancient ghost. The valley feels tighter here, as if the walls of rock and ash are leaning inward, trapping the heat and stench. Every breath is a battle now, the air so heavy with sulfur and minerals that you can taste the valley on your tongue, bitter metallic like chewing on an old coin. You cough quietly, wiping sweat from your brow, and glance nervously at the pools that bubble and hiss on either side of your narrow path. The mud glistens in the moonlight, smooth and deadly, and that's when you spot them eyes. Low to the ground, just beyond a rise of steaming rock, a pair of glowing eyes watches the trail. A predator, smaller than your egg-laying giant, sure, but no less dangerous. It slinks closer, body-low claws clicking softly on the cooled crust of Earth. The creature's outline sharpens for a moment through the haze, a wiry, fast-moving carnivore with a narrow head and teeth that catch the moonlight like tiny knives. It's desperate, you can see that. The heat of the valley keeps bigger threats at bay, but hunger drives this one closer than it ought to dare. The dinosaur mother pauses, sensing danger. Her head swings around, nostrils flaring, and she lets out a low, rumbling hiss that echoes through the steam. The predator freezes. For a long moment, the valley holds its breath. You feel the tension in your chest as if the outcome depends on your next heartbeat. Historians still debate whether this dinosaur's defensive posture was more bark than bite. Whether it was the heat that truly kept predators at bay, or if the mothers themselves were formidable enough to deter most threats. In this moment, it looks like a bit of both. The predator hesitates, weighing its odds. The mud pools hiss and bubble nearby as if warning it of the cost of a single misstep. You can almost hear its inner dialogue. Is an egg worth becoming stew? It slinks backward, disappearing into the mist. And the mother exhales a breath you can feel even from your hiding spot. She shifts her weight tail, flicking once, and continues on, leaving the predator to slink away and nurse its hunger in the dark. You follow carefully, heart still racing from the near confrontation. The valley seems to hum with energy now, the hiss of steam louder, the tremble of the ground more pronounced. You wonder how many other eyes might be watching, hidden in the steam or beyond the pools. Predators who've learned to respect the heat but who wait for storms or cooler nights to chance an attack. Remember when humans evolved? We weren't the first to know the value of patience or the price of recklessness. You pause beside a smaller pool, watching as bubbles of gas rise lazily to the surface and burst with soft, wet pops. The mud here is thinner, more liquid, and you can see deeper down into swirling layers of brown and black. It's mesmerizing in a way, like staring into the heart of the earth. Odd fact, in modern times, certain types of bacteria still thrive in these kinds of boiling mud pots, creatures so primitive and tough, they shrug off heat that would cook most life. Maybe their ancestors watched dinosaurs walk past too. The ground trembles again, stronger this time, and a crack splits the earth a few feet from where you stand. Steam blasts upward, and you jump back, the sudden heat brushing your skin like the breath of a giant. The valley shifts, reshaping itself in tiny ways, and you're reminded how little control any creature has here. Even the mighty dinosaur must bow to the will of the land. The predator's eyes catch your gaze again, far off now, retreating into the darkness. It will wait for another chance, perhaps, when the heat fades for a time, or when rain cools the pools. But for tonight, the valley belongs to the mother and her buried brood, sealed beneath the mud's protective boil. You breathe deeply. The hot air burning your throat and press on the hiss of the valley, filling your ears, like the whisper of some ancient watching god. You shuffle onward, boots squelching softly in the damp ash, and the valley opens before you into a basin ringed by low ridges of crumbled lava and scorched stone. Here, the mud pools are larger, their surfaces broken by restless bubbles that rise and burst with soft plops, sending tiny spatters of scalding liquid onto the nearby rock. The steam is thicker too, coiling in lazy silver tendrils that cling to your skin and sting your eyes. You wipe at them with a grimace, blinking against the heat. The air smells different now, sharper, with an edge of rot beneath the sulfur, as if something long dead simmers beneath your feet. Ah, the valley's own cologne, you mutter, voice lost in the hiss of steam. The mud in these pools isn't just water and dirt. It's a seething brew of minerals, gases, and ancient life. You crouch beside one, peering into its swirling depths. The mud is dark, almost black, streaked with oily colors that shimmer in the moonlight. Bubbles of gas rise slowly, deforming the surface like something trying to break free and burst with quiet sighs. You catch the faint scent of methane and maybe something older. something from deep in the earth where life first stirred in darkness and heat. Odd fact for you tonight. Scientists have found living bacteria in modern geothermal pools that date back nearly to the dawn of life on Earth. Creatures so simple, so tough they thrive where nothing else can, feeding on sulfur iron and heat itself. Maybe the mud you're looking at now holds their ancient cousins still simmering in the planet's slow, patient cauldron. Historians still debate whether these boiling pools were cradles of life or merely death traps where only the hardiest clung on. You lean closer, imagining the secrets hidden beneath that churning surface. A soft rumble rolls through the ground, and the mud pot beside you reacts. The bubbles come faster now, and the surface heaves gently as more gas escapes. The earth here is restless, always shifting, always feeding these strange, simmering cauldrons. The ground beneath your feet vibrates subtly, a reminder that magma flows not far below, a river of liquid rock, shaping the land above. Remember when humans evolved? We're new tenants in a house that's been under renovation since before bones existed. The dinosaur's tracks are harder to follow here, the crust more treacherous. You spot a print here and there, deep scars where her weight pressed through the thin crust into softer mud beneath. But mostly, the valley hides her passage as if the earth conspires to keep her secret safe. You move slowly, testing each step, feeling the crust shift and crackle beneath your weight. The heat radiating from the ground makes your head swim, and for a moment you imagine what it would be like to live here, to breathe this air every day, to raise your young in such a place. You can't decide if it's madness or genius, maybe both. The mud pots gurgle and hiss, and you swear you can hear voices in the sound, the echoes of an ancient world whispering secrets in a language no one remembers. You shake your head, trying to clear the heat haze from your thoughts. But the feeling lingers, that sense of being watched, not by predators this time, but by the valley itself. You glance around, half expecting to see eyes in the steam, but there's only the endless dance of mist and moonlight. You pause at the edge of a wide pool where the mud bubbles more gently, its surface smoother like dark glass. The air here is marginally cooler, the steam rising in slow columns rather than wild bursts. The mud is rich with minerals, iron, sulfur, and who knows what else, leaving strange, crusty deposits along the edges like the rim of a giant's forgotten cauldron. You reach out, then pull your hand back, knowing the heat would scald you in an instant. No need to test that theory tonight. A breeze stirs the steam, giving you a glimpse of the far side of the basin where the dinosaur's trail reappears, faint but clear. You smile, relieved, and step carefully around the pool, the mud gurgling quietly at your side. You think again of the bacteria, the unseen life churning beneath the surface, ancient and unbothered by the dramas of tooth and claw. Odd, isn't it, that the simplest creatures endure where giants struggle? And all the while the valley breathes around you, the mud pots singing their quiet, bubbling song, as if they have all the time in the world. The valley's voice grows louder now, a chorus of hisses, splashes, and low rumbles that seem to rise from the bones of the earth itself. You pause, feeling the ground tremble beneath your boots, subtle like the pulse of some vast creature slumbering beneath the mud and stone. The steam thickens around you, damp and hot, curling into your hair and soaking your skin until you feel like you're walking through a fever dream. Every step is measured now, every footfall a cautious test of the earth's shifting crust. You mutter, "It's like walking on a giant's drum," and the valley answers with a soft hiss as if in agreement. Ahead, the land dips slightly and the pools grow larger, their surfaces broken by rising bubbles that burst with wet sighs. The mud here is paler, streaked with streaks of white and yellow, where minerals leach from deep within the earth. You step closer, drawn by the strange patterns, and feel the heat radiate in waves that make the air shimmer. A sudden crack splits the ground a few feet away, and steam jets upward, carrying with it the stinging scent of sulfur and something sharper, metallic like blood on a hot stove. You flinch back instinctively, heart hammering in your chest. Historians still debate whether the dinosaurs who nested in such places could sense these tremors as warnings or if they simply gambled with every egg they laid. The hiss of the steam mingles with the low rhythmic thrum of the earth, and for a moment you find yourself swaying slightly as if the valley's heartbeat has synced with your own. It's hypnotic, this endless song of heat and stone. Remember when humans evolved? We didn't come from places like this. We sought out shade and water, not boiling mud and poisonous air. And yet here you are standing in the footprints of a creature that made this hellscape its nursery. A breeze stirs the steam, and you spot the dinosaur again, a dark shape moving slowly through the mist. She pauses at the edge of another pool, nostrils flaring as she tests the air. The ground hisses beneath her feet as she shifts her weight, claws digging into the soft crust. You watch, breath held, as she lowers herself to rest, her massive form framed by the rising steam like some ancient statue carved by the gods of fire and ash. The land beneath you trembles again, stronger this time. The pools nearest you ripple and spit, and the crust crackles beneath your boots. You step back, heart pounding, as another vent opens with a violent hiss, blasting hot gas into the air. The sound is like a great beast exhaling, and you feel the force of it against your skin. Odd fact, even today, geothermal valleys like this one can shift overnight, pools appearing and disappearing, vents opening and sealing as the Earth's restless energy reshapes the land. You crouch low, waiting for the tremor to pass, and listen to the hiss and pop of the valley. The dinosaur stays where she is, unbothered, as if this is simply the background music of her world. You envy her calm, her steady trust in the rhythms of this dangerous place. But you can't help glancing around, half expecting the ground to split beneath your feet at any moment. The steam closes in again, the valley's breath warm and wet against your face, and you press on, following the fading outline of the giant mother as she moves through her boiling domain. You wonder how many generations have done this dance, how many mothers laid their eggs in the mud, trusting the heat to hatch them, trusting the earth not to swallow them whole. Historians still debate whether these creatures return to the same spots year after year, drawn by some ancient memory written into their bones, or if they simply sought out any warmth they could find. Either way, the valley remembers even if no one else does. You pause again at the edge of a pool where the mud is so still it reflects the moonlight like a mirror. The steam curls lazily from its surface, and the faint hiss of escaping gas sounds almost like a sigh. The ground beneath you hums softly, the heartbeat of the world steady and slow. And somewhere in that sound, you think you hear the echo of ancient lives. Mothers and hatchlings, predators and prey, all caught in the endless rhythm of fire and mud. The steam thins for just a moment as you crest a low rise, and what you see below steals the breath from your lungs. There at the edge of a shallow, bubbling pool, something stirs in the mud, a small shape, fragile and glistening in the moonlight. A hatchling. You crouch low, heart racing, watching as the tiny creature struggles free of its leathery shell, which cracks and splits under the weight of its first tentative movements. The hatchling's skin is slick with moisture, its limbs spindly and trembling, and its wide eyes blink slowly as it takes in a world of heat and shadow. The air around it shimmers with steam, and the ground beneath the mud pot trembles with the valley's restless breath. You hold your own breath, afraid to move, afraid to even think too loudly, as if your presence might tip the balance between life and death for this tiny survivor. Historians still debate whether these hatchlings were born with an instinct for navigating the boiling mud or if sheer luck decided their fate. Tonight, luck seems as fragile as the shell now sinking beneath the mud's surface. The hatchling lifts its narrow head, nostrils flaring as it tastes the sulfur-laden air. Its first breath rattles in its throat, a wet, uncertain gasp that makes you wince in sympathy. The heat presses down on it, waves of invisible fire rising from the bubbling pool, and you can see the delicate skin along its sides flush red from the intensity. It teeters forward, claws scrabbling at the edge of the pool, and you silently will it to move faster to escape the steam that could cook it alive. Odd fact for tonight, some modern reptile species lay their eggs in sand heated by the sun, and their hatchlings must dig free quickly or risk suffocation or overheating. The prehistoric stakes were even higher here. The mother looms nearby, massive and still watching over her offspring with an intensity that leaves you awed. She shifts her weight slightly, the ground hissing beneath her as a hot gas escapes from hidden vents. Her great head lowers, and she lets out a low rumbling sound that seems to vibrate in your bones. The hatchling hears it, feels it maybe, and rallies, struggling forward through the mud. Each tiny step a triumph over the hostile world into which it's been born. But the valley isn't done testing the little one. A vent nearby belches a sudden burst of steam, and the hatchling flinches, shrinking back from the scalding mist. The mother's rumble grows louder, more urgent, and the hatchling tries again, pushing itself onto firmer ground where the mud crusts over in thin, fragile sheets. You can see the heat shimmering around it, see the delicate fuzz along its neck and spine singe at the edges as the air itself seems to burn. Remember when humans evolved? We think we're tough because we survived ice and saber teeth. Imagine your first breath being taken in a sauna set to murder. The hatchling makes it onto solid ground at last, collapsing in a quivering heap, sides heaving as it gulps down the thick, sulfurous air. Its mother stands over it, casting a protective shadow that blots out the moonlight and steam alike. She lowers her head again, nudging the little one gently, urging it to rise. And after a few heartbeats, it does, wobbling on unsteady legs, blinking in the shifting light, taking its first uncertain steps into a world where every moment is a gamble. The ground beneath you shivers again, a low, steady tremor that feels almost like the valley's applause for the tiny creature's victory. The mud pots bubble more softly now, as if settling into a slower rhythm, the heat easing just slightly as the night deepens. Historians still debate whether these hatchlings ever left the valley at all, or if they grew up here among the steam and mud, learning the valley's ways before venturing into the wider world. You watch as the mother turns, leading her newborn toward higher ground. Each step careful, measured, deliberate, aware perhaps of the dangers that still lurk among the steam. You rise slowly, legs aching from crouching, and follow at a respectful distance, unwilling to disturb the fragile peace of this moment. The steam closes around you again, soft and warm, and the valley's song resumes, the hiss of vents, the sigh of mud, the heartbeat of the earth beneath it all. You trudge after the pair, the steam swallowing their forms, until only ghostly shapes flicker in and out of view ahead of you. The air feels thicker now, heavy with moisture and the sharp tang of minerals that clings to your tongue. And then, as if the valley senses your presence, the first fat raindrops splatter onto the cracked earth. They hit with a hiss, vanishing in tiny bursts of steam where they land on hot rock. You glance up, and sure enough, clouds have gathered overhead, low, dark, and churning, as if they too are caught in the valley's fever. The rain begins in earnest, a steady cooling drizzle that sizzles against the mud pots and boils on the hot stones. The steam rises faster now, thicker than before, cloaking everything in a swirling silver haze. The pool's surfaces dance under the impact of the drops' bubbles, breaking more rapidly, the balance of heat and water shifting with every second. You feel the relief of the rain in your bones, a balm against the valley's relentless breath, but you also feel the tension rise. Because where the heat retreats, danger creeps closer. Remember when humans evolved? We learned quickly that rain could be both a blessing and a curse. And here in this primeval furnace, that lesson plays out in stark clarity. The predators that kept to the shadows now find courage in the cooling mud. From the cover of ferns and scorched trees at the valley's edge, shapes move slow at first, testing the ground, then bolder as the rain quenches the worst of the steam's fury. Historians still debate whether these hunting patterns were learned behaviors or hardwired instincts, but tonight, it hardly matters. Hunger drives these creatures to risk the valley's traps. You spot one lithe, low predator with a long tail and narrow jaws, teeth flashing as it slips from cover. It pads toward the pools, eyes fixed on the spot where the hatchling last stood. Another follows, smaller but just as dangerous, weaving between rocks, drawn by the promise of an easy meal. You crouch behind a boulder, heart pounding, watching as the mother dinosaur senses them. She stands tall, head high, tail lashing the air. A low, guttural sound rumbles from her chest, a warning that vibrates through the ground itself. The predators pause, weighing their chances. The rain falls harder now, a steady drumming that drowns out the valley's hiss and pop. The steam begins to clear in patches, revealing more of the terrain and more of the dangers that lurk within it. The mud pots, cooled by the rain, bubble less furiously, their surfaces smoothing out, becoming more like traps for the unwary than boiling barriers. Odd fact for the night, even today, sudden rainstorms in geothermal areas can cause dangerous crusts to form over scalding water, hiding deadly pools beneath an innocent-looking surface. The predators circle, testing the mother's resolve. One darts in, snapping at her massive foot, but she swings her tail with breathtaking speed, sending it sprawling into a patch of cooling mud. The creature scrambles to its feet, hissing in frustration, the rain plastering its feathers against its scrawny frame. The hatchling stays close to its mother, trembling but alive, wide eyes fixed on the swirling shapes that mean nothing good. You press yourself closer to the rock, not daring to move. The valley seems to hold its breath again, the rain softening the edges of sound, the steam rising in slower, thicker waves. The mother stands, her ground tail lashing, claws ready, and after another tense moment, the predators retreat, melting back into the shadows at the valley's edge, defeated for now. Historians still debate whether such encounters were common in these nesting grounds, or if this is just one of those rare, perfect moments where danger, survival, and the raw power of nature come together in a single heartbeat. The mother lowers her head to the hatchling, nudging it gently, reassuring it perhaps, or checking that it's unharmed. Together they turn, moving toward higher ground, where the rain has already begun to pool in shallow hollows, forming tiny temporary lakes that reflect the lightning flickering in the storm above. You rise slowly, legs stiff, watching them disappear into the steam and rain, and the valley's song shifts again, quieter now, gentler, as the storm soothes the fury of the boiling mud. If only for a while. The rain continues its steady drumming, softening the sharp edges of the valley, taming the hiss of steam and the pop of bursting bubbles. For a moment, you could almost believe this place is peaceful, almost. But the valley is never truly quiet, and its dangers don't rest just because the storm has come. You press onward, following what you can of the mother and hatchling's path. Though the steam and rain blur the trail, washing away prints as fast as they're made. And then you see it in movement. Low, fast, and deliberate. An egg thief. A scavenger of the night, small but swift, with narrow limbs and a long snout perfect for snatching treasure from the mud. Its skin glistens dark in the rain, and its eyes glint like black glass as it darts toward a pool where the mud still bubbles, though gentler now, under the storm's cooling touch. You freeze, heart racing, watching as the creature tests the edge of the pool with quick, nervous steps. It's desperate, you can see that in the way it flicks its head, scanning for the mother, for other threats, for any sign that its raid might cost it its life. Historians still debate whether these smaller predators had a true taste for eggs or if they simply took whatever opportunity the valley provided. Tonight, opportunity knocks. The scavenger leans low, snout, extended nostrils flaring as it searches for the buried prize. The mud has crusted slightly from the rain, hiding the exact spot where the eggs rest beneath their dangerous blanket. The thief scrapes at the edge, claws chipping at the fragile crust, and you can hear its breath short, sharp, almost panting with effort and anticipation. Remember when humans evolved? We weren't the only clever ones, the only opportunists. This little predator is every bit as crafty, every bit as driven by hunger and survival as any early human trying to steal a meal from under a lion's nose. You shift your weight slightly, peering around a rock, and the scavenger's head snaps up, ears twitching. For a heartbeat, you lock eyes through the steam, a flash of shared understanding between two creatures, just trying to stay alive in a place that doesn't care if you do. The rain intensifies, drumming against stone and mud, blurring your view. And in that instant, the thief makes its move. It lunges forward, claws slicing into the crust teeth, snapping at whatever it can reach beneath. The mud gives way with a sick, wet sound, and the scavenger yanks out its prize, a chunk of leathery shell with something soft and glistening inside. It's a partial egg breached by the rain and the shifting mud, its contents now fair game for whatever is quick enough to take it. But the valley notices. The hiss of a nearby vent grows louder, and the ground trembles slightly beneath your boots. A sudden burst of steam erupts from a crack near the pool, and the thief recoils with a yelp, dropping its prize into the mud. It stumbles backward, slipping on the slick, rain-slicked rock, and barely escapes a second blast of scalding vapor that sends the mud pot into a frenzy of bubbling fury. Odd fact, even modern geothermal fields can produce sudden, deadly surges of steam or hot water without warning, triggered by shifts as small as a fallen rock or a heavy rain. The thief, empty-jawed and singed at the edges, scrambles into the night, vanishing into the mist with a final frustrated hiss. You exhale slowly, realizing you've been holding your breath, and watch as the pool settles again, the rain cooling its surface, the mud crusting over once more. The stolen fragment sinks out of sight, claimed again by the valley's churning depths. You glance around, half expecting the mother to return, drawn by the commotion, but the valley offers only steam and silence in reply. The rain eases slightly, a soft patter now, and the steam rises slower. The fury of the boiling mud soothed for a moment by the storm's gentle hand. You step back, the heat still radiating from the earth through your boots, and marvel at the balance of it all. Hunger, danger, and the endless, patient breath of the valley. The rain slackens to a fine mist, beads of water clinging to your lashes, your hair, your clothes, and still the valley hums beneath you. The ground here is never truly still. It shifts, it pulses, it speaks. In the language of tremors and rumbles. You pause on a rise, the steam thinner now, and feel it more clearly, that low, steady beat, as if the heart of the mountain pounds just below the surface. A heartbeat so old it predates bones and shells, so patient it measures time in ages, not moments. You crouch, palm pressed against the warm, damp ground, and feel the faint vibrations ripple through your skin. The mountain's deep heartbeat. Historians still debate whether these geothermal sites were signs of a single vast connected volcanic system or simply scattered wounds in the crust of a young, angry planet. Either way, tonight you are standing on a living landscape, one that watches, one that remembers. A sudden low groan rises from the earth beneath your feet, and the crust nearby splits with a soft crack. A thin seam of red light glows for a breath before vanishing beneath a surge of steam. You scramble back, heart thudding in rhythm with the mountain's pulse, and watch as the vent exhales the steam, billowing skyward like a ghost set free. Remember when humans evolved? We'd have taken one look at this place and kept walking. But the dinosaur mother and her kind, they made their homes here, danced with danger, laid their hopes in the very jaws of fire. The valley responds to the tremor in a dozen small ways. A pool's surface ripples, bubbles rising faster now. A crust of mineral deposits fractures, sliding into a steaming hollow with a splash that echoes off the stone. The air thickens again, hot and wet, wrapping you in the valley's breath. You wipe at your face, but it's no use, there's no escaping the valley's embrace. Ahead through a break in the mist, you glimpse the dinosaur and her hatchling again, high on a slope where the earth looks firmer, the steam less fierce. She stands still, head raised, as if listening to the mountain's song. The hatchling stays close, small and uncertain, glancing back at the valley below, as if sensing the heartbeat too. You wonder if they feel it as you do, if it's comfort or warning or both. A breeze stirs, carrying with it the sharp, clean scent of rain and the richer, deeper smell of hot stone and sulfur. The steam shifts, revealing more of the valley floor pools that glimmer like molten silver rocks streaked with red and yellow. Where minerals bleed through the cracks, trees bowed under the weight of ash and age. The mountain hums again, a long, slow exhale that seems to vibrate through your bones, through the stone, through the air itself. Odd fact: in modern times, scientists have recorded entire landscapes breathing the ground, rising and falling in slow pulses as magma moves below. You step carefully along the ridge, feeling the heat rise through the soles of your boots, feeling the earth's heartbeat in every step. The valley feels older now, as if the storm has peeled back some layer of time and left only the bones of the world beneath your feet. The dinosaur moves on her form, framed by the last light of the storm, her hatchling stumbling after, and you follow, drawn by the pulse of the mountain, the rhythm of the valley, the endless patient thrum of the earth's deep heart. The storm drifts off, leaving behind a sky streaked with tattered clouds and the faint glow of stars beginning to pierce the night. But down here in the valley's restless cradle, the storm's passing does little to soothe the land. The ground hisses and steams as rainwater seeps into cracks and fissures, meeting the furious heat below. You step cautiously, boots slipping on the wet stone, the air thick again with rising vapor. Ahead, the mother dinosaur pauses near a cluster of vents, where the ground pulses with hidden force and the steam pours up in dense, blinding columns. You hear it before you see it. A soft, sudden gasp, like the earth inhaling sharply. Then with a deafening roar, one of the vents bursts open, blasting a fountain of scalding gas and water high into the air. The mother jerks back, but not fast enough. The jet of steam catches her flank, and you watch in horrified awe as the heat singes the dark, feathery filaments along her side. The smell of burnt hair and scorched hide fills the air, sharp and bitter, mingling with the valley's ever-present stench of sulfur. She lets out a low, pained bellow, the sound echoing through the mist like a mourning horn. The hatchling freezes, wide-eyed and trembling as its mother stumbles, but she recovers quickly because she must. There's no mercy in this place, no pause for the wounded. She lowers her head, nudges the hatchling forward, and limps onward, the burn a raw, dark patch along her side, but her spirit unbroken. Remember when humans evolved? We like to think endurance is our thing, but these ancient giants wrote the first chapters in that story long before we ever dreamed of fire. Historians still debate whether such injuries were common in nesting grounds like this, whether mothers often bore the scars of their vigilance, or if only the unlucky fell victim to the valley's sudden fury. Tonight you've witnessed how slim the margin between safety and disaster truly is. The land gives no warning, no second chances. The vent settles the blast spent, and the steam resumes its steady rise as if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't just tried to swallow a mother whole. You move carefully along the slope, the ground slick with rain and ash, your eyes on the mother and her young. The hatchling stays close, brushing against her as if trying to offer comfort or simply drawing strength from her presence. She breathes heavily, sides heaving, but she keeps moving, one slow, determined step at a time. The valley tests her at every turn, but she will not yield. Odd fact: in modern geothermal fields, gas vents can shift location in a single night, turning familiar, safe ground into a deadly trap. You can only imagine how often these creatures had to relearn the valley's map. The land trembles again, a soft shudder that ripples through the stone beneath your feet. The stars above seem dimmer, as if the valley's heat blurs even the sky's cold light. The steam rises higher, thicker, as if the land tries to hide its shame at what it has done. You wipe sweat and rain from your face, your breath coming fast, your heart beating in time with the mountain's slow drum. The mother finds higher ground at last, a place where the steam thins and the vents hiss more quietly. She stands there, framed against the night, the burned patch along her side, stark in the moonlight. The hatchling nestles close, and together they rest for a moment, silhouetted against the ghostly glow of the valley below. And you, hidden among the rocks and steam, watch in silent admiration, humbled by their resilience in this ancient arena of fire and mud. The night deepens, the stars flickering above like cold, distant witnesses to the struggles below. You linger in the shadow of a scorched boulder, watching as the mother dinosaur shifts her weight. The burned patch along her side, glistening in the moonlight, a dark badge of survival. The hatchling stays closed, small body pressed against her leg, drawing warmth from her bulk, or maybe just courage. The valley hums beneath them, a restless murmur that rises and falls with the mountain's hidden breath. And here's the strange part. The part that would make any paleontologist lean forward in their chair. You catch a clearer look at the mother, the curve of her jaw, the sweep of her tail, the pattern of scales and feathers that shimmer faintly in the steam's glow. And you realize this creature doesn't quite fit. Not the sleek form of a known predator, nor the heavy bulk of a typical herbivore. There's something different in the way she holds herself, in the shape of her limbs and the set of her massive head. Historians still debate the identity of these geothermal nesters. Some claim they were early relatives of species we know well, perhaps distant kin of the oviraptor, or a primitive cousin of the mighty theropods. Others argue these creatures represent a lineage all their own, a branch of the dinosaur family tree lost to time and ash. You lean closer, straining to fix every detail in your mind. The pattern of the burn along her flank, the length of her claws, longer than you'd expect, curves slightly like tools built for digging or perhaps for defense. The faint banding in the feathers along her spine. Remember when humans evolved? We left our bones in caves and riverbeds, in gentle earth that welcomed the trace of our passing. But here in this valley of fire, only the luckiest fragment might endure an eggshell, a claw, a bone scorched and sealed in mineral crust. The mother shifts again, and for a moment you imagine her as a fossil, perfectly preserved in stone steam, turned to rock ash, to sediment. What name would future creatures give her? What stories would they tell about the giant who braved boiling mud to protect her young? Odd fact: one of the earliest dinosaur eggs ever discovered was misidentified as a type of lizard egg, simply because no one at the time imagined a dinosaur would choose such a dangerous place for a nest. The past, it seems, loves to keep its secrets. The hatchling stirs, emboldened by the quiet, and toddles a few steps away from its mother, sniffing at the cooled crust of a nearby pool. The mother watches, eyes half-lidded, exhausted but vigilant. You feel a strange kinship with her. Both of you outsiders here, both trying to make sense of a world shaped by forces neither of you can truly master. The steam rises gently, now the rain having tamed the worst of the valley's fury, and the stars above glimmer like faint promises of peace. Historians still debate the right name for this place too. Some call it a nesting ground, others a graveyard. You standing here in the damp heat feel it is both a cradle and a crucible, a place where life dares the fire and sometimes wins. The mother and hatchling rest now for a little while in this quiet between dangers. And you linger on the edge of the valley's breath, knowing the night is far from over, and the mountain's song is not yet done. The night stretches on, and the valley's rhythm slows, as if even the mountain's heart grows weary for a time. The steam rises thinner, now ghostly ribbons that catch the moonlight swirling gently in the cooling air. You follow the mother and hatchling at a distance, your steps quieter, the ground firmer beneath your boots where the rain has done its work. The valley feels different in this softer hour, less hostile though no less strange. You pause at the edge of a broad mud flat where the pools have crusted over their surfaces glinting like glass, and see the truth of this place more clearly than before. Scattered among the rocks and ash lie bones, fragments of shell, delicate and pale against the dark mud. A splinter of rib half buried in mineral crust, the curve of a tooth worn smooth by time and steam, the valley's final gift. Where the mud boiled hottest, where the steam sealed the land in its fierce embrace, the remains of those who failed and those who survived rest now in layers of mineral-rich sludge that will in ages to come harden to stone. Fossils in the making. Odd fact, some of the best preserved dinosaur embryos ever found came from ancient geothermal nesting sites, their delicate bones encased in minerals that formed from the very mud that once threatened to consume them. You crouch fingertips brushing a broken eggshell. The texture is strange, chalky, but hardened in places where minerals have seeped in, preserving its shape. Remember when humans evolved? We left behind art tools, fire pits. These creatures left the land itself written in stone and ash, their stories waiting for some future eye to see. Historians still debate how many of these nesting grounds became fossil fields. Were they the sites of great disasters, floods of steam and mud that caught entire generations unaware? Or did the valley's slow, patient hand preserve its dead as it preserved its living? The mother dinosaur pauses near a rise, glancing back at the valley floor as if taking stock of the place she has entrusted with her young. The hatchling stays close, perhaps sensing the weight of history beneath its feet. The wind stirs, carrying the sharp scent of sulfur and the faint sweetness of wet stone. You rise slowly, eyes sweeping over the valley. One last time, the pools, the bones, the crusted mud, the shimmering steam, and you feel the quiet promise of the land. That even in a place of danger, of heat and hunger and sudden death, life leaves its mark. The valley keeps its secrets, but it does not forget. You follow the pair up the slope. The ground firmer now, the steam thinner, the night air cooler against your face. The valley hums beneath you, still but softer, slower, as if settling into a watchful slumber. And beneath that quiet surface, in the mud's final gift, the bones and shells and fragments of ancient lives wait patient as the stone they will become for the world to change around them. The dawn is still a distant promise, but the sky above the valley begins to pale the black of night, softening to deep blue at the horizon. The stars fade one by one, leaving only the quiet pulse of the land beneath your feet and the ghostly glow of the steam that still rises from cracks and pools. You stand on the high ridge now, looking down at the place you've walked through, a place of heat and hazard, of life's audacity and the earth's fierce indifference. And as you watch, the valley gives one final terrible breath. The ground shudders beneath you, harder than before, and a deep, grinding roar rises from the heart of the mountain. The mud pots tremble, their crusts cracking and breaking apart as boiling water and steam surge upward in sudden fury. The mother dinosaur freezes, nostrils flaring, sensing what comes too late to flee. The hatchling cries out, a thin, plaintive sound, swallowed by the roar of the earth itself. You can only stand there helpless as the valley erupts in steam and ash, and liquid rock, the mountain's slow breath turned to a scream. The sky darkens as a plume of ash rises, blotting out the stars and swallowing the first hint of dawn. The steam thickens white and blinding, mingling with smoke and grit that stings your skin and burns your throat. You stumble backward, heart hammering, as the land reshapes itself before your eyes. Pools overflow, mud floods, low ground, and vents open where none were before. The bones and shells and fragments you saw moments ago vanish beneath waves of wet ash, buried in an instant beneath the valley's final brutal gift. Historians still debate whether such eruptions were common in these nesting grounds, Whether the creatures who laid their eggs here did so in the long, quiet stretches between disasters, or if they gambled with fate every season trusting the land to spare them just long enough. Remember when humans evolved? We built our homes beside rivers that flood on slopes that slip in valleys that burn, thinking we can tame the earth. These dinosaurs knew better. They didn't try to master the land, they tried to live with it, to read its moods, to risk its wrath for the chance of survival. The mother and hatchling vanish into the steam, swallowed by the rising tide of ash and mud. The mountain groans again, and a curtain of falling stone and grit closes over the valley floor. You stumble to higher ground, gasping in the choking air, and look back one last time. The pools are gone, buried beneath a fresh skin of rock and ash. The trees at the valley's edge bow under the weight of the mountain's breath. The steam rises slower now, thicker, quieter, as if the land is settling back into slumber, its fury spent. And as the sky lightens at last, a soft, pale dawn breaking through the thinning ash, you feel the silence that follows, the heavy, waiting hush of a world remade. Ash's bones and silent echoes are all that remain hidden now beneath the new face of the valley, waiting for time to do its work, for stone to form, for the earth to remember what the world will one day forget. The valley lies quiet now, its fury spent, its secrets sealed beneath fresh layers of ash and stone. The dawn creeps over the horizon, soft and pale, casting long shadows across the reshaped land. Steam still rises here and there, curling gently into the morning air, like the last whispers of a dream fading with the light. Where once the pools bubbled and hissed, where once the mother dinosaur laid her eggs and guarded her hatchling, there is now only silence. The crusted mud, the scattered bones, the fragile shells, they lie hidden beneath the valley's new skin, cradled in the earth's deep memory. You stand on the ridge watching as the world below begins to cool, the heat of the night's final breath giving way to the chill of dawn. The air tastes cleaner now, the sulfur faded, replaced by the crisp scent of ash and stone washed by rain. And as the first light touches the valley floor, you feel the weight of what you've seen, the fragile balance between life and fire, between daring and disaster. The mother's sacrifice, the hatchling's first steps, the valley's quiet promise to remember all of it lingers in the steam that drifts upward, in the soft rumble that still hums beneath your feet. The land will hold these secrets for ages yet, until time and chance reveal them once more. And as you turn to leave the valley, behind you breathes slow and deep a patient giant at rest, waiting for the next story to unfold in the shadow of the ages.